The third time the debt collectors came to my door, they knew what time I got home from work. That was when I understood my mother had not just left me grief. She had left me a clock that was running out. It was 11:46 on a Thursday night, cold enough for my breath to fog the narrow hallway outside apartment 3B, and my keys were still in my hand when I saw them. Two men stood beside my door like they had been part of the building all along. One leaned against the peeling wallpaper with his arms folded. The other held a red envelope between two fingers, tapping it softly against his palm. Top, top, top. The sound was quiet, but it found every weak place in me. My fingers tightened around the strap of my thrift store purse. I had worked 9 hours at the frame shop, skipped dinner, and spent the bus ride home counting the $68 in tips I had hidden in my coat pocket. It was not enough. It was never enough. The taller man looked at me the way landlords looked at late rent checks. Not angry, not surprised, just certain. Lily Hart. My name sounded wrong in his mouth. Flat. Owned. I lifted my chin because my mother had raised me to stand straight, even when my knees wanted to give out. You're blocking my door. The red envelope slid forward. He did not hand it to me. He let it hover between us like a dare. Friday. I stared at the envelope instead of his face. I already called the office. I told them I need more time. The man by the wall gave a small laugh and glanced at my shoes, my coat, the tired shape of my life. Your mother borrowed time, sweetheart. Now the bill belongs to you. Something cold moved through my chest. Not fear exactly. Fear was loud. This was quieter, heavier, the kind that settled behind the ribs and stayed there. She's dead. The words came out sharper than I intended. Then she doesn't need extensions. The hallway light flickered above us, buzzing like a trapped insect. For 1 second, I imagined my mother standing behind me, small and pale in her blue cardigan, telling me not to open the door after dark. Don't argue with men who want you scared, Lily. Let them mistake silence for weakness. I reached for the envelope. The taller man let it go only after my fingers touched the paper. Pay by Friday. His eyes moved to the apartment number behind me. Or we come back. The other man pushed off the wall, slow and casual. Maybe earlier. Depends how patient we feel. I waited until their footsteps faded down the stairs before I let myself breathe. Inside, the apartment smelled like old coffee, dust, and the lavender soap my mother used to keep by the sink. Her mug still sat on the second shelf because I had not been brave enough to move it. Her reading glasses were folded beside a stack of bills I had opened, cried over, and opened again, as if numbers changed when grief touched them. They did not. The red envelope shook in my hand. I dropped it on the kitchen table and stared at the words stamped across the front in black ink. Final notice. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I let it ring. Then again. Then a text appeared. Friday is generous. My stomach turned. I crossed the room to the narrow closet and pulled down the old hat box from the top shelf. It had belonged to my mother. Not the woman who gave birth to me, maybe. I had never known that story clearly. But the woman who packed my lunches, sat beside me through fevers, braided my hair before school, and lied with gentle eyes whenever I asked why we had no family photos. Inside the hat box was a velvet case the color of dried wine. My thumb brushed over the worn fabric. I almost put it back. I almost told myself there had to be another way. Then someone downstairs slammed a door, and my whole body flinched before I could stop it. That was the truth of it. Memories did not pay debts. Love did not keep strange men from learning your schedule. I opened the case. The necklace lay inside, silver and delicate, its small pendant dull beneath the kitchen light. My mother had touched it only once in front of me. Her fingers had trembled. Never sell it unless survival costs more than memory. I had laughed then because I was 17 and stupid enough to believe survival was something you chose, not something that cornered you at midnight. Now my eyes burned. I'm sorry. Mom. My voice broke in the empty room. I tried. The necklace blurred until the pendant became a soft silver tear. I closed the case before I could change my mind, pressed it against my chest, and stood in the little kitchen while the refrigerator hummed and the city moved on without caring. By morning, I would take the bus to Cassano House, the most expensive auction house in Manhattan, and ask strangers to put a price on the last thing my mother left me. I thought I was selling a necklace. I did not know I was about to sell the lie that had kept me alive. By 9 the next morning, Manhattan looked polished in a way my life never did. Cassano House rose from Madison Avenue like a building that had never known overdue rent. All limestone columns, black awnings, and brass doors so clean I could see my tired reflection warped across them. I stood on the sidewalk with the velvet case inside my purse and almost turned around. A woman in a cream coat swept past me, her perfume soft and expensive, one gloved hand holding a phone that probably cost more than my electric bill. A man stepped out of a black car and handed his keys to the valet without looking at him. Everyone moved like they belonged to marble. I moved like someone who had taken the bus. My coat was still damp at the hem from the puddle near 79th Street. My black dress had been ironed twice and still looked like it came from the sale rack. The envelope in my purse seemed heavier than the necklace. Friday is generous. The text had burned behind my eyes all night. I pushed through the brass doors before fear could pull me back. Warm air wrapped around me, smelling faintly of lilies, wax floors, and money. The lobby was enormous. Cream marble beneath my shoes. A chandelier above me throwing gold light across glass display cases. People spoke in low voices, the kind that never had to beg to be heard. A receptionist behind a curved desk lifted her eyes. Her smile was perfect, practiced, and gone almost as soon as she saw my coat. Consignment appointment? I swallowed. Yes. Lily Hart. 10 o'clock. Her fingers moved across a tablet. You are early. I tightened my hand around my purse strap. I did not want to miss it. Something flickered across her face. Not kindness exactly. Maybe curiosity. She gestured toward a hallway lined with framed auction catalogs. Ms. Whitaker will meet you in Valuation Room 3. I followed the hallway, trying not to stare at the paintings, the sculptures, the silent cameras tucked into the corners. Every step echoed too loudly. At the end, a silver-haired woman in a navy suit waited beside an open door. She looked at me, then at the purse clutched against my ribs. Miss Hart. I nodded. That is me. Her gaze softened just enough to make my throat tighten. I am Evelyn Whitaker. Come in. The room was smaller than the lobby, colder, with a white table in the center and a lamp bright enough to make every flaw visible. I sat across from her and placed the velvet case between us. My fingers would not let go right away. Evelyn did not rush me. That almost made it worse. Take your time. I looked down at the worn fabric. If I take too much, I will leave with it. Her pen paused above her form. Would that be so terrible? A laugh broke out of me, small and rough. Only if my landlord accepts memories as payment. Evelyn lowered her eyes to the case. May I? I nodded, but it felt like surrender. She opened it carefully. The necklace caught the white light, silver brightening as if it had been waiting for someone to wake it. My eyes burned immediately. I hated that. I hated crying in a room this clean. Evelyn leaned closer, professional calm shifting into real attention. This is older than I expected. It was my mother's. My thumb pressed into my palm. My foster mother. She never told me much about it. Evelyn lifted the pendant with gloved fingers. There is engraving on the inner rim. My breath stopped. Engraving. Before she could answer, the small black camera in the corner made the faintest mechanical sound. A slow adjustment. A turn. Its lens settled on the necklace. Evelyn noticed it too. Her shoulders stiffened, barely but enough. Somewhere above us, behind glass I could not see through, someone was watching. The room felt colder. I wiped beneath one eye before the tear could fall. Is something wrong? Evelyn closed the case with more care than before. Her voice dropped into a softer register. No, Miss Hart. Nothing is wrong. But her hand moved to the phone on the table, and she did not take her eyes off the camera. I only need to inform upstairs that your piece has arrived. Upstairs, behind glass that turned the auction floor into a silent painting, Vincent Cassano watched the necklace appear on the private monitor. The room around him was dark except for the pale glow of screens and the city light slipping through the tall windows. He stood with one hand in his pocket, still as stone, dressed in a black suit cut so perfectly it made every other suit in the building look borrowed. His silver watch rested beneath the edge of his white cuff. On his right hand, the black ring marked with a single carved C caught the light when his fingers moved. His shoes were polished black, reflecting the narrow gold line of the floor lamp beside him. At 42, Vincent did not look like a man who hurried. He looked like time had learned to wait for him. Dante stood 2 steps behind, broad-shouldered, quiet, reading the room the way other men read newspapers. Valuation flagged it as antique silver. Late 20th century. No known maker. Vincent did not blink. On the screen, Evelyn Whitaker's gloved hand lifted the pendant. The camera zoomed in. A small inner rim. A shallow mark. Then the engraving caught the light. Vincent's fingers closed around the edge of the desk. Not hard. Not dramatic. Just enough for Dante to stop breathing for half a second. Sir. The word barely disturbed the air. Vincent leaned closer to the monitor. 20 years fell out from under him. Rain on Whitestone. Lucia Valenti kneeling in a hallway. Dark hair loose around her face. Her hands shaking as she fastened that same necklace around a little girl's neck. Serena had been 5. Too small for the fear in the room. Too young to understand why adults spoke in whispers and why every door kept closing behind her. Lucia had looked at Vincent, 22 and foolish enough to believe loyalty could outrun betrayal. If I do not make it out, you remember her name. He had carried that sentence. Longer than any scar. On the monitor, the woman across from Evelyn sat rigid, both hands folded too tightly in her lap. Pale skin. Dark hair pinned back without care. A thrift store dress trying to survive among marble and gold. Her eyes shimmered not with greed but with grief. Vincent watched one tear gather and not fall. His jaw tightened. Dante stepped beside him, careful. Do you know her? Vincent's gaze never left the screen. Noah paused. Then softer, colder. I know who she was. Dante looked at the necklace, then at the young woman. His expression changed. Valenti. Vincent touched the black ring once with his thumb. A small movement. A private alarm. Find out everything about Lily Hart. Birth records, school records, addresses, employment, medical history, debt history. Start with the foster mother. Dante pulled out his phone. Quietly. Vincent turned his head just enough for the light to cut across one side of his face. His eyes were calm, but everyone who worked for him knew calm was the most dangerous weather inside Cassano House. So quietly that even the records do not realize they have been opened. Dante nodded and moved toward the door. On the monitor, Evelyn reached for the phone in the valuation room. Vincent lifted one hand. The guard by the wall saw it through the glass and pressed a button. Evelyn's call redirected upstairs. Vincent picked up before it rang twice. Down below, Evelyn kept her voice even, but her eyes flicked toward the camera. Mr. Cassano, we have a consignment that may require your review. Vincent looked at Lily Hart again. At the trembling mouth. The wet eyes. The way she tried to make herself smaller in a room designed to measure worth. Enter it into tonight's private auction. Evelyn's lips parted. Tonight? The catalog has already closed. Vincent's thumb brushed the edge of his watch. The same silver watch he had worn the night he failed Lucia Valenti. Open it. Evelyn lowered her gaze. And the seller? Vincent watched Lily press one hand against the purse in her lap, like she was holding herself together by force. For the first time in 20 years the past had a pulse. Keep her in the building until the auction begins. Evelyn's face tightened with concern. She may not agree to that. Vincent's eyes darkened, not with anger, but with something older. Then make her feel safe enough to stay. He ended the call and stood in the silence that followed. The city moved beyond the windows. Cars. Sirens. Millions of people living ordinary lives beneath a sky that had no memory. Dante returned to the doorway, phone already in hand. Should I cancel the auction? Vincent looked once more at the necklace resting inside the velvet case. A dead woman's warning. A stolen child's name. A promise he had buried and failed to forget. No, his voice was low enough to make the room lean in. I want to see who came to buy what should have stayed hidden. By 6 that evening, Cassano House had changed faces. The quiet valuation rooms and polished lobby became something sharper, brighter, almost unreal. Chandeliers burned above the private auction hall like captured stars. Waiters moved between velvet chairs with trays of sparkling water and champagne. Women in silk murmured behind jeweled hands. Men in tailored suits checked their watches as if time answered to them. I sat in the third row near the aisle, holding my numbered paddle with both hands because my fingers would not stop shaking. Evelyn had told me it was normal to feel nervous. She had used that soft professional voice people used around grief in hospital beds. Your piece has attracted private interest, Miss Hart. I had stared at her across the small office where she had given me tea I could not drink. Private interest? Evelyn's eyes flicked once toward the ceiling before returning to mine. Cassano House occasionally moves select items into evening sale when the market supports it. The market? My laugh came out thin. That is a very clean word for strangers buying the last thing my mother owned. Her hand rested near mine, not touching. You can still withdraw. I almost did. My purse sat against my knee, lighter without the velvet case inside it, and I hated that emptiness more than I hated the debt. Then my phone buzzed with another unknown number. No words this time. Just a photo of my apartment door. Taken from the hallway. I signed the final form with a hand that barely belonged to me. Now the necklace waited backstage, catalogued under a number I could not remember because my mind had gone soft around the edges. The auctioneer stood at the podium, silver-haired and smooth, his voice carrying through the room like warm glass. Paintings came first, then a pair of diamond earrings, then a watch once owned by a senator. People lifted paddles without changing expression, spending more in seconds than I made in a year. I should have been fascinated. Instead, I kept watching the side door where the staff disappeared and returned with other people's treasures. At the back of the room, a man in a gray suit turned slightly toward me. I noticed him because he did not look at the stage. He looked at me. Narrow face. Pale eyes. A smile that did not reach anywhere kind. When our eyes met, he lifted his paddle a half-inch, almost like a greeting. My stomach tightened. The auctioneer adjusted his papers. Next, Lot 27. An engraved silver pendant necklace, private family provenance. The side door opened. A young attendant carried the necklace out on a black velvet tray. The room did not gasp. It did not need to. The pendant looked small beneath all that light. Too small for the ache it had left in my chest. On the large screen behind the podium, it appeared magnified, every curve of silver made enormous. I stopped breathing when I saw the hidden rim exposed, though the engraving was too tiny for the audience to read. My eyes filled before I could fight it. The chandelier blurred into gold water. I pressed my lips together. Do not cry here. Do not give rich people another thing to study. The auctioneer began. Opening bid at $10,000. A paddle lifted. Then another. 15. 20. 30. The numbers rose cleanly. Politely. Like steps leading away from me. I should have felt relief. 10,000 could pay the first portion. 30 could keep the apartment. 50 could make the calls stop for a while. But every number sounded like betrayal. Every raised hand felt like someone prying my mother's fingers from mine. 75. The man in the gray suit lifted his paddle. He kept his eyes on me. Not the necklace. Me. A chill ran down my spine. 100,000. A woman near the front joined without looking up from her catalog. 150. Gray suit again. His smile widened. My hand moved to my throat, searching for weight that was not there anymore. From the balcony above, a silence shifted. I felt it before I saw him. The room changed temperature. Conversations thinned. Heads turned one by one toward the second level. A man stood behind the dark railing, half cut by shadow, black suit immaculate, white cuff bright at his wrist. Even from below, I saw the flash of a silver watch and the dark mark of a ring on his hand. His face was too calm, too still, beautiful in a way that made distance feel necessary. The auctioneer hesitated for less than a second, but the pause was enough to tell me this was not just another bidder. Gray suit lowered his paddle slightly. The man above looked at the necklace on the tray, then at the stranger in the back, and finally at me. His gaze held mine as if he had been looking for me long before I entered the room. My heart gave one painful strike. The auctioneer cleared his throat. We are at 150,000. Do I hear 200? The man on the balcony lifted his paddle without looking away from me. His voice dropped through the chandelier light, low and controlled. 5 million. The room went silent so completely I could hear my own breath break. The gray-suited man's smile vanished. The paddle slipped lower in his hand. I stared up at the stranger in black, tears still burning in my eyes, and understood with a fear I could not name that he had not bought my necklace because it was beautiful. He had bought it because he knew what it meant. For 3 full seconds nobody moved. $5 million hung above the room like a chandelier that had come loose from the ceiling. The auctioneer stared toward the balcony with the frozen smile of a man trying to decide whether he had misheard power. A woman in the front row lowered her catalog. Somewhere behind me, glass touched glass with a tiny nervous sound. I could not look away from the man in black. He stood above us without leaning, without shifting, without any visible satisfaction. He had just spent more money than I could imagine on a necklace I had almost hidden in a kitchen drawer. And his face did not change. The auctioneer finally found his voice. $5 million. Do I have 5,100,000? No paddles lifted. The gray-suited man at the back looked down, his mouth tight now. His fingers curled around his bidding number until the edge bent. Going once. My heartbeat filled my ears. Going twice. I wanted to stand, to shout that something was wrong. That nobody paid $5 million for silver and grief unless the grief belonged to them too. The gavel struck. Sold. The sound cracked through me. Not loud. Not violent. Just final. My hands went cold around the paddle in my lap. The attendant carried the necklace away, and I felt the loss physically, as if a door had closed inside my chest. Evelyn appeared at the edge of my row before I could gather myself. Her face was calm, but her eyes were careful. Miss Hart, Mr. Cassano would like to speak with you privately. The name moved through the row before I did. Cassano. It changed the posture of everyone who heard it. Backs straightened. Conversations lowered. A man near the aisle moved his knees aside before Evelyn even asked. I stood because my body did not know what else to do. Do I have a choice? Evelyn's hand hovered near my elbow without touching. In this house, more than most people think. That answer should have comforted me. It did not. I followed her past the velvet chairs, past faces that pretended not to watch, past the gray-suited man who kept his eyes on the floor until I passed him. Then he looked up. His expression was blank now, empty as a locked room. A security guard stepped between us, quiet and immediate. No one spoke. No one needed to. At the foot of the marble staircase, Vincent Cassano descended from the balcony. The room seemed to make space for him before his shoes touched the next step. Black polished leather reflected the gold light. His suit moved like shadow over stone. The silver watch at his wrist flashed once when he adjusted his cuff. The black ring marked with a carved C rested on his hand like a seal pressed into midnight. He was older than I first thought, not old but formed by years that had made other men softer and him sharper. 40-something maybe. Beautiful in a cold, distant way. Like a winter city seen through glass. He stopped 3 feet from me. Close enough for me to see the gray in his dark eyes. Close enough to understand why the auctioneer had gone pale. He looked at me as if the crowded room had vanished. As if I had walked out of a memory and forgotten to bring the truth with me. My throat tightened. Why would you pay that much for my mother's necklace? His gaze moved over my face with painful restraint. Not searching for beauty, searching for proof. Because it was never meant to be sold. Anger saved me from trembling. That was not your decision. A faint shift touched his jaw. Not a smile. Not irritation. Something older. No. It was not. Evelyn stepped back, leaving us in a circle of silence. I clutched my purse against my ribs. Then why did you do it? Vincent's thumb brushed the black ring once. The gesture was small, but everyone near us seemed to notice. Because the wrong man tried to buy it before I did. My eyes cut toward the back of the room. Gray suit was gone. The space where he had stood felt colder. What does that mean? Vincent did not follow my glance. He kept watching me. It means your necklace is not just jewelry. You do not know anything about me. The words came out too fast. Too thin. He took one slow breath and for the first time something in his face cracked. Not much. Just enough to let sorrow through. I know your eyes. My body went still. Excuse me. He lowered his voice until it belonged only to me. I know the way Lucia looked when she was trying not to cry. The name struck somewhere deep. A bell ringing in a room I had never opened. Lucia. I did not know anyone named Lucia. I should not have reacted. But my fingers went numb. Vincent saw it. Of course he did. He saw everything. I forced myself to step back. My name is Lily Hart. His eyes darkened, not with anger but with certainty so heavy it scared me. He looked at me like a man standing at a grave and watching the dead breathe. Then he spoke one word soft enough to break me. Serena. The room tilted. Sound stretched. The chandelier became a blur of gold above his shoulder. I heard myself inhale, sharp and uneven. That is not my name. Vincent held my gaze, and the sadness in his silence frightened me more than any threat could have. Then why did it hurt to hear it? The question should have sounded ridiculous. Names do not hurt. They do not reach into your chest and pull at things you never agreed to remember. But Serena did. It moved through me like cold water under a locked door. I looked away first because his eyes were too steady, too sure, and I could not bear the possibility that he was not guessing. The auction hall had returned to sound around us, but softer now, careful. People pretended to study catalogs. Staff pretended to adjust chairs. Everyone seemed to understand that Vincent Cassano's silence had weight. I hated that I understood it too. I am leaving. My voice shook so I made my spine straighten. You bought the necklace. Congratulations. Enjoy whatever game rich men play with dead women's jewelry. I turned, but a man in a black suit stepped into the aisle, not touching me, not blocking me fully, just present enough to make my pulse jump. Vincent's gaze cut to him. One look. The man moved aside immediately. That frightened me more than if Vincent had raised his voice. He did not control people with force. He controlled the air before force ever became necessary. I took one step, then another. Vincent walked beside me, leaving enough space to be polite and not enough to feel accidental. Where did you get it? I kept moving toward the lobby. From my mother. Her name. The words were quiet, but they followed me like a hand at my back. Margaret Hart. His face did not change, but his eyes did. Something closed. Something confirmed. She raised you. I stopped near a marble column. That is what mothers do. For the first time, his expression softened in a way that made him look almost human. Almost tired. Yes. My throat ached. Do not talk about her like you knew her. I did not know Margaret Hart. His fingers brushed the black ring once. But I know what she was willing to risk. The anger came fast because fear had nowhere else to go. You know nothing. She worked at a library for 20 years. She made terrible soup. She cried during Christmas movies. She kept coupons in a shoebox and sang when she thought I was asleep. That is who she was. Vincent absorbed every word like I was giving testimony. Not interrupting. Not correcting. Just listening with that unbearable stillness. Then his eyes moved to my purse. And she kept that necklace hidden from you. My hand tightened around the strap. She kept it safe. There is a difference. I stepped closer before I could think better of it. You do not get to buy your way into my grief. A small breath passed through him. Not quite a sigh. No. I do not. Evelyn approached with the velvet case in both hands, her face pale but composed. Mr. Cassano, the item has been secured. Vincent held out his hand. She placed the case in his palm as though returning a relic to an altar. I hated the way my body leaned toward it. He noticed. Of course he did. You want it back. My eyes burned again. I never wanted to let it go. For a moment the lobby lights reflected in his watch, turning silver into white fire. He opened the case. The necklace lay there, small and innocent, as if it had not just torn my life in half. Vincent lifted it carefully, not like a buyer inspecting an object, but like a man touching the edge of an old wound. May I show you something? I folded my arms. If I say no? He looked at me, and the quiet answer was stranger than any threat. Then I stop. I did not trust him. Not his money. Not his control. Not the way every person in the building seemed to orbit his decisions. But the necklace was there between us, and my mother's secrets had already started breathing. I gave one sharp nod. Vincent turned the pendant to its side and pressed a nearly invisible seam with his thumbnail. The locket opened with a soft click. My heart stopped with it. Inside, beneath the curve of Silver, tiny words had been engraved so delicately I had to lean in to read them. For Serena, when the world forgets you. The lobby disappeared. The chandelier. The marble. The people pretending not to watch. All of it went thin and far away. My mouth parted but no sound came out. Serena. Again. Not spoken this time. Written. Hidden against my skin for years. My mother had never shown me. Never told me. Vincent watched my face and something like regret crossed his. Your mother did not leave you a necklace. His voice dropped until it barely disturbed the air. She left you proof. I stared at the words until they blurred, and somewhere deep inside me, behind a door I had never opened, a little girl began to cry. The little girl inside me cried without making a sound. I felt her in the tightness of my throat, in the sudden weakness behind my knees, in the way my hand lifted toward the open locket and stopped before touching it. For Serena, when the world forgets you. I read the words again and again until they stopped looking like engraving and started looking like a wound. Vincent closed the locket with care. The soft click made me flinch. His eyes moved toward the entrance behind me, and whatever softness had been there vanished beneath something colder. I followed his gaze. Through the glass doors beyond the brass handles and the black awning, a gray car waited across Madison Avenue with its lights off. I could not see the driver. I did not need to. My phone buzzed inside my purse at the same moment. Unknown number. My fingers shook so badly I almost dropped it. The message was only 6 words. You should have sold it quietly. The air left my lungs. Vincent did not reach for the phone. He only looked at my face, then at the screen from a distance, reading enough from my terror. His jaw tightened. Dante appeared beside him as if he had been summoned by silence itself. Vincent's thumb brushed the black ring. Close the front entrance to private traffic. Dante's hand moved to his earpiece. Already done. I stepped back. What is happening? Vincent turned to me, and the answer was in his eyes before it reached his mouth. Someone came here for the necklace. My palm closed around the phone. The man in the gray suit. Not a collector. Then what was he? Vincent looked toward the street again, where the car remained still beneath the rain-slick glow of the traffic light. A messenger. The word made my stomach sink. For who? He did not answer fast enough. That was enough to scare me. Evelyn returned with a leather folder pressed to her chest. Her face composed in the way people become composed when panic would be unprofessional. The private room is ready. I looked between them. No. I am not going anywhere private with people who keep answering questions with furniture. Evelyn blinked once. Vincent's mouth almost moved. Not quite a smile, not even close, but the smallest break in the ice. Fair. I hated that one word calmed me more than it should have. He turned slightly, giving me the choice of the hallway rather than taking it from me. There are cameras in the lobby and at least 3 people pretending not to watch you panic. If you want answers, you will hate receiving them here. My hands curled around my purse strap. And if I walk out? His eyes dropped briefly to my phone. Then they will follow you before you reach the corner. I swallowed. The gray car across the street seemed to wait with the patience of something certain. You could be lying. Vincent nodded once like I had said something reasonable. Yes. That honesty unsettled me more than a polished denial would have. Why should I trust you? He glanced at the necklace in his hand, then back at me. You should not. Not yet. The lobby noise pressed in around us. Rain tapped the glass doors. Somewhere an elevator chimed. My whole life had become a hallway with no safe direction. I thought of Margaret Hart, my mother in every way that had mattered to a frightened child, saving coupons in a shoebox and looking over her shoulder whenever a black car slowed near our curb. I thought of the bills on my kitchen table, the photograph of my apartment door, the red envelope, the words hidden inside the silver pendant. I followed Vincent. Not because I trusted him. Because the truth had already followed me first. The private room sat behind a paneled door with no sign. Inside, the walls were lined with dark wood, the lights low and warm. A round table stood in the center, empty except for a laptop, a stack of old files, and a glass of water I did not touch. Vincent placed the necklace on the table between us. Not near himself. Between us. That mattered, though I did not want it to. Dante opened the folder and slid a faded document across the table. My name was at the top. Lily and Hart. Below it, an adoption record from New Jersey dated 20 years earlier. My birthday was listed as April 12th. My fingers hovered over the page. That is my birthday. Vincent's eyes stayed on mine. It is the date your papers were created. The room tilted again, slower this time. Dante placed another sheet beside it. An old missing child notice, edges yellowed, photograph grainy. A 5-year-old girl with pale skin, dark hair, and solemn eyes stared up from the paper. Under the photo was a name I had seen only minutes ago inside the locket. Serena Valenti. My chair scraped softly against the floor as I pushed back. No, the word came out small. Vincent did not move toward me. He stayed exactly where he was, and somehow that restraint made my eyes burn worse. 20 years ago, Lucia Valenti gave her daughter to a woman named Margaret Hart and disappeared before dawn. My chest tightened around my mother's name. Margaret never kidnapped me. His gaze sharpened with quiet certainty. No. She saved you. I looked down at the two names on the table. Lily Hart. Serena Valenti. One life I had lived. One life that had been buried under it. Why would she leave me with debt? Vincent's expression changed, and for the first time I saw anger there, not at me, but at the cruel math of survival. Because hiding a child from powerful people costs money. My vision blurred. She was scared all the time. He lowered his eyes to the locket. She had reason. I pressed a hand to my mouth, but the sound still escaped, half breath, half grief. Margaret had not left me a burden. She had spent 20 years buying me mornings. Vincent's voice softened until it barely crossed the table. Your foster mother did not leave you debt, Lily. She left you alive. The name Lily broke me then because he used it gently, as if he understood it was not a lie to me, even if it had begun as one. I looked at the missing child notice again. The little girl stared back with my eyes. And for the first time in my life, I wondered what else my mother had loved me enough to hide. I stared at the little girl on the missing notice until her face stopped feeling like a stranger's and started feeling like a mirror held too far in the past. Serena Valenti. 5 years old. Dark hair. Pale skin. Last seen in northern New Jersey 20 years ago. The words looked official, harmless, almost clean. They did not show Margaret Hart checking the locks 3 times before bed. They did not show her changing grocery stores every few months. They did not show the way her hand tightened around mine whenever someone called me sweetheart in public. I pressed my fingertips to the paper, careful not to tear it. She knew. My voice barely sounded like mine. All those years. She knew who I was. Vincent stood across the table, one hand resting near the necklace, his black ring turned toward the light. He did not rush to comfort me. I respected that even through the ache. She knew enough to keep you hidden. Dante slid another page forward. A copy of an old bank transfer with numbers blacked out. Margaret received money through different accounts for years. Small amounts. Never enough to look suspicious. I looked up. From who? Dante's gaze moved to Vincent before he answered. Vincent's face had gone still again, but his eyes were not cold now. They were somewhere else, 20 years behind the rest of us. From me. The room seemed to tighten around that. You sent my mother money? His thumb moved once over the edge of his watch. Not enough. That was not my question. He met my eyes. Yes. I sent what I could without leading anyone to her. A bitter laugh broke through my throat. And now I am supposed to thank you? Vincent lowered his chin, accepting the blow without flinching. No good. My hands shook as I gathered the papers, then dropped them because I did not know what to do with a life that suddenly came with evidence. Because she died scared. She died with bills stacked on our kitchen table. Men came to my door because of money she borrowed to keep me alive. And you are standing here telling me you knew enough to help, but not enough to stop it. Dante shifted slightly, but Vincent lifted 2 fingers without looking at him. Dante went still. One gesture. The whole room obeyed. I hated how much power could fit into so little movement. Vincent's voice stayed low. I was 22 when your mother trusted me with your life. He looked at the necklace, not at me. Lucia Valenti put that pendant around your neck and told me to get you out before sunrise. The name Lucia settled over the room like perfume from a dress packed away for too long. My chest ached with it. I do not remember her. His eyes lifted, and something in them hurt to witness. She had your eyes. My breath caught. Vincent continued, each word measured like it cost him something. She was 29. Too young to look that tired. She knelt in front of you in a blue dress. You were angry because she would not let you bring a stuffed rabbit. A sound escaped me, small and broken. Not a sob. Not yet. A flicker moved behind my eyes. Blue fabric. Rain on windows. A woman's hand smoothing my hair. A rabbit with one missing button eye. I gripped the table. Stop. Vincent went silent instantly. That obedience was worse than pressure. It made me feel the choice was mine, and I did not know what to do with it. I looked at the missing notice again. You were supposed to protect me. The words came out before I could soften them. Vincent's face did not defend itself. Yes. And you failed. His jaw tightened, but his gaze did not move away. Yes. The simplicity of it stunned me. No excuses. No polished story. Just the wound, placed between us beside the necklace. For 20 years I thought you were dead. His hand curled slowly around the back of a chair. I built every room I controlled because I could not survive the memory of the one room I lost. My anger faltered. I did not want it to. Anger was easier than pity. Easier than the strange grief of being mourned by a man. I did not know. Why do you care so much now? Vincent looked at me then, fully, and the quiet in him became almost unbearable. Because I never stopped looking. I turned away before my face betrayed me. The rain tapped softly against the window, gentle and relentless. My reflection floated in the glass beside his. Lily Hart in a cheap black dress, Vincent Cassano in a perfect suit, the past standing between us like a locked door. Then why does hearing that name feel like remembering pain? Vincent did not answer right away. When I looked back, his eyes had moved to the locket. Because some names are buried to save a life. His voice thinned into something almost tender. And some names come back when the danger does. My phone buzzed again on the table. All three of us looked down. Unknown number. One message. Pretty name, Serena. It would be a shame if everyone remembered it tonight. The room went cold. Vincent did not touch me. He did not raise his voice. He only looked toward Dante, and the air changed so sharply my skin prickled. Dante was already moving. I will lock down the building. Vincent picked up the necklace and closed his hand around it, the black ring catching the low light. Then his gaze returned to me, calm and final. Now you understand why I could not let him buy it. The building locked itself around us without a sound. No alarms. No panique. Just doors clicking somewhere beyond the walls, elevators pausing between floors, footsteps becoming faster and quieter in the hall. That was how Vincent Cassano handled danger. Not with noise. With order. I stood beside the table, staring at the message on my phone until the letters blurred. Pretty name, Serena. It would be a shame if everyone remembered it tonight. My whole life had been built on being forgettable. Lily Hart paid rent late, took the crosstown bus, bought store-brand cereal, and knew which laundromat machines ate quarters. Serena Valenti made strangers wait in dark cars and send messages that turned rooms cold. Vincent placed the necklace back in the velvet case and slid it toward me. I did not touch it. Keep it. His eyes held mine across the low light. It belongs to you. A laugh broke from me, sharp with fear. $5 million, and now you are giving it back? His hand rested near the case, not claiming it, not pushing. The black ring on his finger looked carved from the same darkness as his suit. I paid to keep the wrong hands away from it. That sounds generous. I lifted my chin, though my voice shook. Or controlling. Something moved through his face. Respect, maybe. Or pain wearing a different coat. Both can look similar from a distance. Then step back so I can see the difference. Dante at the door went very still. Vincent did not. He absorbed the words like he had expected them, like maybe a part of him believed he deserved them. Outside the windows, rain traced silver lines down the glass. He looked older for 1 second. 42, not timeless. A man who had spent 20 years turning regret into walls. My people found the account tied to Margaret Hart. My pulse jumped. What? The debt is being traced. By morning, the men who came to your door will no longer control it. Heat rushed into my face. You are buying my debt? Vincent's gaze did not move. I am removing a weapon from their hands. Without asking me. The words came out low, but they carried. Dante looked down. Evelyn near the sideboard folded her hands. Vincent stood completely still. Yes. I stepped closer to the table. You do not get to decide my life just because you know my past. His eyes changed. Not anger. Recognition. Like the sentence had struck exactly where it needed to. I know. No, you do not. You are used to people moving when you look at them. Doors close. Men step aside. Women lower their voices. But I am not one of your rooms, Mr. Cassano. The formal name landed between us. His jaw tightened once. Vincent. Do not make this personal because you feel guilty. Silence followed. Deep. Uncomfortable. Honest. Then Vincent reached for the black ring on his right hand. He twisted it slowly, pulled it free, and placed it on the table beside the necklace. The sound was small, metal against wood, but it changed the room more than any raised voice could have. My family seal. His hand withdrew. For the first time his finger looked strangely bara. People obey it because they fear what it represents. I looked at the ring, then at him. Why are you showing me this? His eyes did not let me hide. Because you are right to fear becoming a possession inside a world like mine. My throat tightened. He continued, quieter. And because I do not know how to protect you without building walls. That is what I know. Walls. Locks. Names erased from records. Debts intercepted before they become chains. The anger in me weakened, not gone, but shaken by the truth underneath his control. Margaret built walls too. Yes. And she lied to me. Yes. But she loved me. Vincent's gaze softened. More than safely. That broke something small in me. I looked away before tears could fall again. Too many had already escaped tonight. I want to go home. Dante turned slightly, ready to object, but Vincent lifted one hand. No one spoke. He picked up his ring, then stopped and left it on the table. Then I will take you. No, my answer came fast. Too fast. I swallowed. You can have a car follow from a distance if that is the only way everyone in this room keeps breathing normally. But I ride alone. For a moment I thought he would refuse. Men like Vincent Cassano did not look built for compromise. Then he nodded once. From a distance. The drive back to my apartment took 27 minutes. I counted everyone from the back seat of a hired car that smelled faintly of leather and rain. True to his word, Vincent did not sit beside me. Another black car remained 2 blocks behind, visible only when streetlights slid over the windshield. My building looked smaller than it had that morning. Tired brick, rusted railing, one hallway bulb still flickering. The photograph from the unknown number had been taken right there. I forced myself up the stairs anyway. Inside apartment 3B, nothing had changed. The bills. The lavender soap. The mug on the second shelf. My mother's absence waited exactly where I had left it. I went to the closet without taking off my coat and pulled down the old hat box again. The velvet case had left a shallow dent in the tissue paper. My fingers searched the lining because suddenly I did not trust any object to be only what it seemed. There, beneath a loose seam, I found a folded photograph. The paper was old, soft at the edges. 4 people stood in the picture. A dark-haired woman in a blue dress. Margaret Hart, younger than I had ever known her. A little girl holding a stuffed rabbit with one missing button eye. And a man of 22 with solemn eyes and a silver watch on his wrist. On the back, written in faded ink, were 6 words that made the room disappear. The Serena survives, find Cassano. A knock sounded downstairs, not at my door, but at the building entrance. I crossed to the window. Vincent stood on the sidewalk in the rain, coat dark against the streetlight, hands at his sides, not coming up, not forcing his way in. Just waiting. For 20 years I thought Lily Hart was the name that saved me. But that night, with my mother's photograph trembling in my hands, I began to understand that Serena Valenti was not just the name they buried. It was the name someone had been waiting to protect.